This talk was created from the point of view of a gas car owner moving to an EV car after 2 months of use. As mentioned in the QA section, an EV car should be plugged in at home every night if possible, and you should not worry about public charging stations. The exceptions are long trips or for those that have no access to at-home chargers because they live in apartments or no charger is provided where they stay.
All right, so tonight's guest speaker has been a ham since he was 14 years old, back when tube ruled the air. And he is currently a member of the, I believe, Alameda County Sheriff Communications team. You can find him on DMR as well as System Fusion. And he recently purchased an electrical vehicle. So let's welcome Tom, November 6 Hotel, to the center stage.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so today I'm going to do a talk on electric vehicles. So I'm just curious, out here, how many have electric vehicles in this audience here? 1, 2, 3. 3? Okay. 3 out of the group. Very good. And how many of those are Tesla vehicles? Okay, 1, 2. So I think Tesla is probably the most popular one out there. I ended up getting a non-Tesla vehicle. I got a Volkswagen ID4. And kind of this is my thoughts on what the ownership is after 2 months. So there was a lot of, things that I learned, and so I thought, well, maybe it would be useful for a presentation to kind of just talk about things I learned on an electric vehicle, in case you have a thought of buying one. So this is what I bought. I bought a 2023 ID4 Pro S. It has an 82 kilowatt battery in it, and it has a range of 250 miles. That's typically what they say. So this is what I'm going to be talking about. So the reason why I bought one was, first off, I was tired of gas vehicles and having to do smog checks and stuff. I wanted a cleaner, smaller car, which this was. I was curious about the EV technology. I read a lot of articles about batteries and how, all that. And I thought, well, this would be an interesting thing to do. Lots of high-tech features. The car is equipped with lots of little high-tech stuff. It connects through Verizon. You can actually have an app, and it can talk to you and tell you when it's unlocked and tell you what its charge is and all the little things that it needs. So, as us ham operators and techies, we like a lot of gadgets, and so that's kind of what it is. Also, free charging, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes here, but that was another incentive to actually buy the vehicle. And it's only for 3 years. I got a 3-year lease on the vehicle, not knowing what the technology is going to be like beyond 3 years. So we'll see how that goes. So the topics I'm going to talk about tonight is first, since this is a ham group, I'm going to talk about the EV and ham radio. I'm going to talk about battery mileage. That's something that I've kind of thought about dealing with this, and it's something you're constantly thinking about with an EV vehicle. And also the charging, how I charge it, and the different charging options you have for EVs. And spares. We'll talk about what spares are needed for the vehicle. And then also we'll ask the question, is the EV in your future? And I'll go through some of the key points there and see what we do. So first off, with amateur radio, I haven't done a lot with amateur radio. I haven't installed a radio in it. Mainly because the last point there, I'm kind of the fear of actually modifying the vehicle. There's a lot of electric stuff going on there, and I'm kind of want to make sure everything is working first before I actually make any changes to it. But as far as radio interference, I've done using a tiny SA and kind of moved it around the vehicle, and I haven't seen a lot of interference coming through it. I've run an HF radio inside it. I run a UHF, VHF, and I hadn't really had a problem with that. If I put an AM radio in there, it does have problems because it's amplitude modulated, so it does give problems. As far as antennas, I didn't think about this too much, but it has a moonroof that covers up most of the entire roof. So it's really hard to put an antenna in the center of that. I could probably use a window mount type of antenna, or maybe just do a mag mount in the very back. So we'll see how that goes. I know that Jerry, with your RAV4 hybrid, you had that issue too. As far as power connections are concerned, I was really surprised because it has USB-C So it really connects to your phone and does all that stuff, both in the front and the back. But I was looking for a power port, and that's what they used to call the cigarette lighter. There's only one of them, and it's in the very rear cargo area of the vehicle. And I kind of wondered why that was so, but then I came up with an idea, or at least a thought, and I'll talk about that towards the end of this presentation. But yeah, there is only one place to actually plug something in. You have a question? So the question is the power port powered all the time? No, it's not. It's only when the car is running, so that's also another issue too. I mean, I could go in there and actually run connections to the battery, but I haven't, looked at that yet, or how I can route it through things. So I thought I would just go ahead and wait. And I didn't really buy the vehicle as being a ham radio vehicle. I have another vehicle that I can do for that. So this is more of a, okay, we'll see how it goes, and then I'll kind of maybe add something later on to it. So the main part of the topic that I want to talk about is what I call battery mileage. And this is really how many miles can you get out of the battery. So, and it also generates this other term which people call range anxiety. And I definitely can vouch for that. I'm sure the ones that have the electric vehicles have the same thing here. So I did some math here, and my vehicle is rated at 245 to 280 miles range. And so when I looked at it, really for the EV that I have, it's about 250 is what I would really say it is. And that's with 100% charge. Well, then if you start reading and information and you get all these warnings saying don't charge it to 100%, you need to charge it to 80%. So if you do that and you do the math, you basically subtract 50 miles from that, so now you're down to 200-mile range. Then they say, well, you don't let it go below 20% of the battery, so which means you've lost another 50-mile range. So now you're down to 150. So my 250-mile range that I bought this thing for is now down to 150 miles. And what I did before, I had a RAV4, which was just a gas-powered vehicle. I knew I can get at least 300 miles off that on a tank of gas. I didn't have to worry about it. So now I have a vehicle that's basically giving me half of that. But there's more. Everything in an EV affects mileage. If you have the climate controls on, you're having heat on, you're having air conditioning on, it all affects that. How you drive, whether it's cold outside, everything affects that. So what I found just by going and doing a number of trips is that I lose about 15 to 20% based on the estimated mileage which the vehicle gives me versus what I actually get. So if you do the math there and you start subtracting this stuff out, you find that the 250-mile range vehicle is now down to 128 miles of what you're going to get, unless you really want to start pushing it. So that's one of the issues that I found. Now, the salesman, when I first got this, and he talked about this, and he explained it, and he says, if you're only going to keep the vehicle for a couple of years, well, just charge it to 100% and let it go below 20% and don't worry about it. Which is now a red flag there for somebody who wants to buy a used EV. Because now if that car has been abused and the person's only didn't worry about taking care of the battery, then you have a problem, and now it can be limited battery life. So just something to be aware of, and which is probably why the used EV market is not doing very well.
Question. So what about a tow package?
What about a tow package? Well, Ryan can tell you about a tow package on his. He tows his Tesla. He tows a trailer, so and he gets about half the battery life when he tows things, which is another thing. If you buy an F-150 Lightning, which is an all-electric Ford vehicle, then you have that same issue. So anyway, this is kind of the reality of what I call the battery mileage and how it really gets affected, and what they tell you and what your when they say your mileage may vary, it really does, and it can vary over all types of things. If you think about it, when you have a gas vehicle and you turn on the lights or you turn on the windshield wipers, it's taking from the battery, but it's also being recharged. Where on an electric vehicle, everything takes from the battery. unless you're getting charged. So talking about charging, which is another issue too that I think is important, there are really two types of charging. One is what I call private charging, which is where you're going to charge it at home, and then you have public charging where you're going to charge it in a place that you've seen on the road, which I'm sure all of you have seen. So, and they have like level 1, level 2, and level 3. So level 1 charging is where you do 120 volts. You just plug it into your AC outlet, and then you're done. And typically it requires a special charging unit that connects to your vehicle. Well, you can see that the thing is rated in charging rate of 3 miles per hour, which means that for every hour you have it plugged in, you'll add 3 more miles to the rating on your battery, which is pretty slow. So you're typically going to go from 20% charge to 80% charge. You're probably talking about 50 hours to charge it, which is not really the right way to do it. Level 2 charging is when you're using 220 to 240 volts. So basically, level 2 charging is almost equivalent, and what I do is plug it into a dryer outlet, and with an extension cord. It's kind of a Rube Goldberg thing, but it does work. It gives you a 7 kilowatt per hour rate, which means you can get 24 miles per hour plugging the thing in there. So if you plug it in for 2 hours, and you're going to get 48 hours of drivable stuff. And that requires 30 amps, so a 30 amp dryer outlet works for that. And you can do from 20% to 80% in 6 hours. So it's pretty reasonable, and it gives you kind of a way of offsetting the charge if you're not doing all the public charging. So I have mine connected to a 220 volt dryer connector. I have a bunch of extension cords and stuff I use, but for right now it works. You can tie it in. You can have electricians tie it into the electrical box, and then there you can do 40 amps, and you do 40 amp charging, and then you get a much faster rate for that, which is another solution. This is a picture of the charger. So this is showing you the charger on the left side, and then my extension cables and stuff to connect it to the dryer connectors. So that's what I have right now is kind of my solution for doing that. And this just shows the connection to the dryer outlet. So basically you unplug the dryer cable and plug this in. It works. Now, as far as public charging is concerned, these are all the chargers that you see on the roadside. They call them level 3 charging. They're fast DC charging, so they're using high voltage DC to charge. They typically have 50, 150, and 350 kilowatt charging stations. They typically will charge an EV in less than an hour. I think the typical time, at least for me, is spending about 30 minutes at a charging station, and it gets it up, pretty much close to the 80% mark. All EV plugs are not the same, so you're going to find that for Tesla is going to use a different plug than the ID4 is going to use, or some other cars. So you have to be careful with that and make sure you pick the charger that has the right plug, or you get adapters. And charges are not free. You're going to actually pay for that, typically 36 to 56 cents per kilowatt hour. So if you look at and do the math, it may be equivalent or cheaper at home to charge. It may be slower, but if you have better rates and you can offset the hours, it may work better. There are a number of different chargers out there. Electrify America is the one that I use most of the time. This is what I said before. There was free charging. With the Volkswagen ID4, I get 30 minutes of free charging. And it typically can be fast charging. It can go from the 50 kilowatt rate up to 350. I typically don't see that, but that is free if you can find the chargers, which is one of the issues, because you have to, as you're getting more and more EVs out there, it's getting harder and harder to actually find to get to a charger that's free. You typically are waiting in line for that, which can also be a problem.
Over here. You say it's 30-minute charging per what? Day, week, month?
So yeah, for the Electrify America, for my plan, it's 30 minutes in a 1 hour period. So if you came back every hour, then you can get, 30 minutes. But the issue is then you're competing against everybody else that has the same type of plan, so they're all lined up for it. EVgo, ChargePoint, or some other commercial charging ones that are out there. They don't have the free plan, but they typically have different rates depending upon what the hour of the day is. If it's peak time, you're going to pay peak rates. And I found that it in some cases, like my electricity at home is around 47 cents per kilowatt hour, so it's pretty kind of equivalent to what some of these chargers are doing. So it kind of depends on where you want to charge. But the nice thing is they have phone apps for a lot of these chargers so that you can find out, okay, if there's a charger available at a place. Of course, the problem there is like I can look and see that there's 2 chargers available at a certain location, but by the time you get there, that has changed. I think EVgo has a deal where you can pay a membership fee and you can actually reserve a charger. I haven't tried doing that, but that's one of the possibilities.
Can you use the Tesla chargers?
I can't use the Tesla chargers. I probably could if I had a adapter for it, but I don't. So what I've said here is you need to prepare to wait. You have to wait when you go to a place. You may have to wait to actually get in line to get a charger. And then once you have the charger, you have to wait, of course, for the car to charge, which typically can take from 30 minutes to an hour, depending upon what you want to do. Compare that to a gas station where you pop in and maybe, you're there for 5-10 minutes, and you're on and you go. So there is a lot of prep that you have to worry about, especially, finding where these chargers are and where they're available. And the other problem is a lot of the chargers are broken. There's a charger in Rockland for Electrify America. They have 6 chargers, but typically 3 of them don't work at any given time. So that's also an issue. And then you also have to prepare for slow chargers. Even though the chargers say they'll give you, 350 kilowatts per hour, I may only draw 50 or 75 at max with my vehicles. That can be dependent upon what the vehicle can do, but also dependent upon what the chargers are going to put out. And they may be shared chargers. If you have 3 people that are there charging, then it divides up that between all 3 of them. So it all depends. And then, as you've seen in the news lately, cold weather affects charging. Some people, back in Chicago and back east, they could not charge because it was too cold. And so they had to end up warming up their engines, which means they end up using more electricity and probably getting stuck trying to get to a charger. So there's a lot of issues based on that. The other thing is that these chargers are not always in the best of places. I mean, a lot of times you find them at Walmart, or you could find them, in some remote area and stuff. And a lot of times, since you have to go there at odd times, you may be there at 10, 11 o'clock at night trying to get a charger just to make sure it's charged up. Then the more the EVs are sold, of course, that's going to make it even worse. When I first thought about getting my ED4, which is probably about 6 months ago, I was cruising around and I saw these chargers that I wanted to use, and they were pretty empty every time I went there. I didn't have a problem. Now I go there and I'm waiting probably a half hour just to get the charger because more and more people have come up. There are more chargers coming up. I read something where Electrify America is opening has a charging station in San Francisco, and that they're offering 20 charging stations. They're offering a lounge area with coffee and charging stations for your phones and all that stuff. So, I mean, there are some of those coming, and it would be nice if that was the norm, where they would do more of those things. And there's also, some grants and stuff. Some cities have grants to actually put more charging infrastructure into the areas. So, like I mentioned before, you're going to wait 30 to 60 minutes to get something charged, where if you had a gas vehicle, you may only be a 5 or a 10 minute wait to just pull in. So the best solution that I've found for all this is a combination of home charging and public charging. Like the other day, I went someplace and I wanted to get the thing charged up, and I couldn't. I was down getting pretty low, so I ended up having to just go home and plug in the charger. But it wasn't ideal, but at least it got me there. I've talked to some people, and you get a chance to talk to a lot of people when you do these charging stations, people just waiting for their chargers. And a few people, they have they live in apartments, so they have no way of actually plugging in a charger at home. And the apartment building doesn't provide that, so what happens is, they're reliant on all these public chargers, and it just, it's tough. And it does cause, range anxiety and anxiety just how you're going to get, feed your vehicle. So this showing a dashboard on my vehicle. It's not the best picture, but it does give you an idea. This is when it was charging up. So basically I was at 74% and I had 201 mile range. And then there's a thing right here where it says that it's charging and it's 186 miles per hour, which is the amount of miles that it's going to. So if I was charging for 1 hour, I get 186 miles added to my battery. And then it gives a little parentheses there that it was at 49 kilowatts hour rate. That's the charging rate. And this was on, I think, a 350 kilowatt charger. So I was getting a lot less than what I should have. But there were other vehicles there at the time, so it could have been spreading between those. And my other topic here is about the need for spares. One thing that really surprised me, and I didn't realize this until a couple weeks after I got the car, there's no spare tire in my EV vehicle. So, and what they do is they provide what they call a mobility kit, which is that right there. That's a kit that allows me to, if I get a flat tire, I basically try to fill the tire up with this gook from this container, and then they give you a little pump that plugs into the power port. So that's, I think, why they have the power port in the back of the cargo area, because this thing right here, to pump up the tire, would have to plug into that 12-volt power port. So that may be the only reason that they supplied that.
I thought that was a pair of shoes for you to walk in.
No, it's not a pair of shoes. That's actually the case for the mobility kit. So there is no jack stand. I can't even jack up the wheel if I wanted to. There's no wrench for removing it or any of those things. Basically, since my car is equipped with all the technology, it has an SOS button, and you click on that, and you can get to somebody for roadside assistance. And what I've told is that they will then tow your car to a Volkswagen dealership. Which I'm yeah. So I did find, if you go on Amazon or you do a search, and I went on some of the forums for this, there is a spare tire kit available on Amazon for about $500. Of course, there's no place in the vehicle to put the spare tire unless you just want to put it into the cargo area, and of course it's going to take up space. So then you have people talking about, well, I just carry it on a long trip that I need, if I need a spare tire. So anyway, that's kind of one of the solutions, I guess. Then my other spare is a gas vehicle, my Jeep. and this is when the EV can't be charged, or if it's too cold to be charged, or if a disaster strikes. When I do my emergency stuff with Amarillo County Sheriff, we have some different disaster scenarios, and one of them is where there's no electricity, for a week in an area because of something has hit. Well, and that's the case, you're not going to be able to charge your EV vehicle at home. You're not going to be able to charge it at a charging station. So you need to have some other solution. So that's a gas vehicle or a hybrid vehicle where you have gas and electricity is the solution for that. And since we're ham radio operators, we always have two radios. Why not have two cars, right? Okay, so my last slide here is kind of talking about looking at is EV in your future? Well, and these are the things to really consider. You need to consider, your driving habits, where you want to travel to. Are there charging stations nearby? You can research that beforehand. Can you charge from home? I think that's an important thing. If you can, then at least it gives you some flexibility in your charging ability, where you can do a combination of home and also public charging. Especially when in my situation, when you go to the public chargers, they're all full and you don't want to wait, or you're in a hurry, then you just go back home and can plug it in. Then also, depending upon the gas price, what you're paying, you may find that EVs are not cheaper to fuel. When I was first looking at this thing, gas pricing was over $5 a gallon. So when I looked at that, it looked like it was a pretty good thing, and I could save some money. Now that gas has come down, I'm looking at it and saying, well, maybe if I had a 30 or 40 mile per gallon gas vehicle, it would actually, do the same thing. It'd be saving some money that way, and I wouldn't have all the anxiety of having to try to find where do I want to plug it in. The other thing here is that EVs are heavy vehicles. They have all these batteries and stuff, so they're pretty heavy, and they claim that you probably will go through tires 30 to 40% faster than you would on a regular gas vehicle. So that's also another consideration that you have to worry about.
And then you have the battery life. You think that a battery, it may last 8 to 10 years. I know that Greg, his battery on his Tesla has probably beyond that, but
if you really baby it and get it right, maybe you'll get longer life out of that. But at some point, you're going to need to replace it because it's going to lose mileage. So where typically you have a car that may go 200, 300,000 miles, with like a Toyota or one of those type of cars. With this, you're looking at maybe 100 to 120,000 miles that you're going to have to think about battery replacement or what you're going to do. So it kind of it's something to consider. So
what would that cost?
What's that?
What would that cost? What would it cost to replace the batteries?
So Doug, you had some ideas on what some of the cost? $25,000 to $30,000. Yeah. So
yeah, that's a bunch of dough. When somebody's going to buy your car and they know that the battery health is relatively low, they're probably not going to offer you top dollar on your beautiful electric vehicle.
So my first slide said that it was only for 3 years because I got a 3-year lease on this. So to me, it's like a 3-year experiment. So because I wasn't quite sure what the battery technology is going to be, and I was thinking, well, maybe after 3 years, new technology is going to be out there, and it'll be something that I can just turn it back in and either go with a hybrid, go with another type of battery technology, or go back to a gas vehicle. So, wait for the mic.
Your lease probably has an option to purchase at the end of the 3 years.
Right.
If that's the case, based upon your experiences to date and all the things you've told us, are you inclined to exercise it or turn it back in?
That is a good question.
When I purchased it, I was inclined to turn it back in. I had probably already decided that. So I guess we'll see, how the experience goes. I think it's a good education. It's maybe a costly education, but I think it's interesting. And I do have a gas vehicle that I can do beyond that. So it's not like it's my only vehicle that I have to worry about. Doug?
I think I know. Does this work? Yeah, okay. So a simple one-word answer to this would be appreciated. If you could turn back time 4 months, would you buy and lease that vehicle again?
Yes.
Knowing what you know now? Okay.
Yes. It's a really nice vehicle. I enjoy the technology, and I guess it's more. I also look at it as a nice little challenge to. It's like a Tetris puzzle thing where you're trying to fit everything in, and but I don't think it's for everybody. I can see why it would not be mainstream for everybody to do that. A hybrid, yeah, is actually a nice way. But I did not want to go the route of having to do smog and having to do gas and all those things. I mean, it was just. I think we have another.
Yeah, right here. Hey, Tom.
Sorry.
Obviously, when you go to public charging, there's a lot of power capabilities there. You are holding the cord to, oh my goodness, high potential.
Mm-hmm.
What do you, in your opinion, after you've handled these connectors, the wiring and things like that, you got the public that's those wiring is going to wear. You're going to have potential for electrocution. Do you see that at all? Do you see that that might be a potential problem in the future?
So the question is, do I see it as a potential problem for wear and tear and electrocution trying to charge these things? The ones I've seen look like they're well maintained. I haven't seen any problems with that. There are interlocks. My car will not allow me to pull a connector out if it's in charge mode. In fact, sometimes I have to go through some special hoops to try to get the thing unlocked. So you don't have those problems. I guess time will tell. I see this more as an experiment, and I think it's there's a lot of unknowns out there, but I think they have to consider that.
Can you drive in the HOV lane?
I will be able to probably in about another month. They are allowing for my vehicle. There's only certain vehicles. There's a list that you can go to, and my vehicle does qualify for that. So I can go into the HOV lanes once you get the tags, and you can also get a special transponder from Fast Track.
I was intrigued by one of your first slides, and it said free electricity, but I didn't hear that in your talk. I heard that the public charging.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was really intrigued by one of your first slides that said free electricity, one of the reasons that you got it, but I didn't hear that in your I heard you talk about the charge for the public charging, the cost for public charging, but I didn't hear where the free electricity was.
So the free electricity that I have is through Electrify America. It's with my vehicle only, or my type of vehicle, where they give me 3 years of the charging for 30 minutes. So if I go to Electrify America and there's an open charger there, I can charge for 30 minutes. Then I have to wait an hour and then come back and charge again if I want to keep charging some more. So that was kind of one of the draws for this vehicle, is that it had free electricity, free charging, if you can find a charger and if the charger's not broken.
So two-part question here. What percentage of time do you use free charging or public charging versus your home charger? And two, how much does that raise your electric bill at home?
Well, so typically, I haven't done a lot of charging. I mean, I've charged at home probably 3 or 4 times. I have seen some spikes in that. Typically, I'm putting in about 20, and you start getting into all these numbers, 27 kilowatts into it, and it's been roughly about $13 to $20, per charging at home. So that's what I was starting to look at the price of how it compares to the gas, and it's getting to the point where it's about similar to the gas.
Yes, you brought up free charging. We know there's no such thing as free. Somebody is paying. Who is supplying this so-called free electricity?
I think with that, it's supplied by Volkswagen, and I think that they have some other companies other manufacturers that are also part of that. But they are probably just subsidizing that as a way of doing that. Ryan, did you have a?
Yeah, there's also a company called Volta, and at the mall, Galleria. Volta at the Galleria. They'll show you some ads. You don't have to look, but they're level 2 chargers, and they charge at about 30 to 32 amps, totally free. At the movie theaters, at the mall. You can plug in as long as you like. They say maximum 2 hours, please move your car. But there are about 4 or 5 chargers at the mall and at the theater, and that is really free. Libraries, I just had a doctor's appointment at Dignity Health. They have 3 stalls for free. So there are places that legitimately have unmetered free charging.
So, we heard all these pretty horrifying things about electric vehicles, but what are the good things about it?
You heard? I didn't hear the question.
It was a lot of like range anxiety and bad charging. It sounded like a lot of bad things. What are the good things about the car?
The good things about the car? The good thing, It has a lot of great technology. I mean, it has lots of nice features to it. I think it's a nice riding car. I mean, I really, Doug asked the question if I would buy it again. I went back a couple months, and the answer is yes, I would.
And it's a chick magnet.
I haven't found the chick magnet yet.
So to answer the one question about the electrocution, working in emergency response, there has been no reported cases of that happening due to the interlocks.
Yeah, from what I've seen, the chargers are well made and they're well maintained, and I have not seen any issues. And like I say, I can't pull the cable out. If it's in the middle of charging, I have to go through hoops to actually try to get the thing to stop and actually pull it out before it does, because it does have an interlock on my the charging connection itself.
From the peanut gallery here, I got my electric car at Christmas of 2014. So it's been what, nine years. You mentioned the dryer connection. Have you heard of the Dryer Buddy?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Dryer Buddy. Have you heard of that?
No.
Think of it as a transfer switch between the dryer and your car to the plug.
Okay.
So you plug this thing into the outlet, and then plug your car in, and plug in the car and the dryer into it, and you can switch between the two. The reason, besides the hassle of unplugging the dryer and stuff, the outlets, the 1450 outlets, aren't designed for a lot of plugging back and forth. They wear out pretty quickly. They aren't they're mechanically similar to what you find in an RV park, but not as robust. So you'll wear those things out. It's something to be careful about. Mentioned the level 2 charging. Many establishments, hotels, restaurants, doctors' places now, that is free level 2 charging. So yeah, you go there, they ask you not to leave the car there all day, and when you're done, when it's fully charged, move the car. But it's level 2, you can get a lot of charge in not too much time. The general rule for a gas car is, you're charging, you're refueling on your time. So you do it as little as possible. How close to the fumes can you get, right? Electric cars are the opposite. If you can plug in, plug in. If the car's at home, plug it in. Just plug it in. And that way you'll always have the best charge. The last 20% of the charging is slowest. The car on a fast charger is running 100 miles an hour toward a brick wall. At 100% and plus 1, the batteries will explode. I'm exaggerating. So the car slows down as it approaches that 100%. And so that last 20 takes a lot longer than the middle 20. Battery life is a combination of calendar time as well as miles. If your gas car sits there and does nothing, the rubber in the hoses will rot, but the car itself doesn't really age. It's miles. We think of mileage. A battery has a calendar component as well as a number of charges component. The battery in my car is 14 years old this month. I've got about 75 to 80% of the capacity left. It's a perfectly good battery still.
So after 14 years, it's down to 80% of its capacity.
And I have 60,000 miles on the car. So, and I charge it on that. I keep it in that 20 to 80% range, and it's a lifetime for the car. My car typically you'd want to own longer than 3 to 5 years, but it's a lifetime component thing. 60,000. Yeah, there are a number of cars out there with 100, 200,000 miles on them. That's fine. It's nothing unusual. And the question about your home bill, yes, it goes up. You can't not do that. That's physics. My daughter bought an electric car, and my God, Dad, my electric bill went up. Yes. What did your gas bill go to? 0. And she ended up it's about a 2-to-1 for her car. Better for the electric than it was the gas.
But it definitely is a psychological thing where you see your electric bill go higher.
It is. It's
but you don't realize you're not paying.
Oh, it is so psychological, yeah. And the gas car she replaced was a Toyota Corolla. So not a gas filter. And even then, her bill is half.
Yeah. But you don't think about that. You don't think about
you don't.
what's not going on in your credit card.
Yeah.
You think about what's going on in your...
Last comment, tire wear. Yeah, tires wear out faster. The reason isn't so much the weight, it's that the cars are fun. And when you stomp on them, you have fun, you're going to wear the tires out faster. Same thing as doing wheelies, doing donuts in the parking lot. That was my summary.
There's a question back there.
Which?
Brian?
So one thing that you mentioned was this was a Volkswagen, right?
Mm-hmm.
What led you to that decision compared to Tesla versus Honda or Toyota? I mean, everybody makes an EV now. What drew you to the Volkswagen route?
So what drew me to the Volkswagen, I've had some friends that were considering the Volkswagens. I did not want to go the Tesla route. I don't know, we've had some discussions about that, and that was just not what I wanted to do. And I looked at the Volkswagen. They seem to have a pretty good record, but some reviews. I mean, I started probably doing this about 8 months ago, so it's not like it's just a split decision to do this thing. And then also, I think the free electricity part of it was probably a good incentive. And I think originally they offered it free for life, but then once they started getting a backlog of these things and orders and stuff, they basically changed it to 3 years. So, but yeah, but the reality of it is that it's good if you can get it, but it doesn't always happen. So.
I'm just curious how much additional planning you have to do to take a trip, say cross country.
How much additional planning? Well, I think with the idea that I can charge at home, it means like Greg says, if you're at home, you might as well just plug it in and keep it topped off. I think that's the important thing. I made the mistake when I came up here, and I was driving about 100 miles from my place in Discovery Bay up to here and did some other things. And I was down to, I think about, 60-something%. I got up here and I was down to 18%. So I actually went below the 20% thing. So luckily I could just bring it up here and plug it into the dryer outlet and then get enough miles on there to go.
Don't sweat the bottom 20% or the top 10%. That's not that big a deal.
What's that?
Don't sweat. Those aren't hard limits. It's if you do it every day for a long period of time, it will affect the life of the battery. It's not a hard wall.
But where the range anxiety comes in is, yes, maybe it tells me that I have 40 miles left, but then I really know that if I don't drive it just perfectly, if I had the air conditioner on or had the heater on and stuff, my 40 miles may actually get down to 20 miles. So then you end up getting lower than you really think.
It's really fun driving up in the Sierras. From Auburn to Nyack, I drove my car up to Field Day one year. It's 37 miles or something like that each way. To get there cost me 60 miles of range.
Yes.
To come home, it cost me 16.
Yep.
Physics.
Yeah.
It works.
Well, it also the vehicle has regenerative braking, which also,
exactly, yeah.
When I was going over Vasco Road, I actually gained 16 miles on the battery then because of just all the braking, and was in traffic too. So, which means in traffic, you're actually generating electricity back into the vehicle.
Yeah, people really worry about stop and go traffic with a gas car. With an EV, your range goes up.
Yeah, if you enable the braking.
I always have the regen turned on. It's silly not to.
Yeah, by default, it's not always on, so you have to actually enable it, yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah.
Tom, I hate to brag about my Toyota plug-in hybrid vehicle, but get this. I have an AM radio.
I have one too, but it doesn't work.
And so the question is, do you listen to the AM radio?
Oh, I listen to XM satellite.
He listens to XM satellite. I rest my case.
I sent Tom a recording of the AM radio in my car, and yeah, the whine is terrible.
Thank you very much.